what's frustrating to me is that when those Western Conference final days and even the years moving forward, I was like, I did not hate that matchup. I thought AD going at Jokic and then having LeBron being able to do LeBron things with nobody to guard him. Obviously, Aaron Gordon has made a difference. Obviously, Michael Porter being the most lethal shooter that anybody has known
and
is a different.
And Jonte's at the crib betting, smashing the overs, spamming the overs. Welcome back to Smoothie and the Bib. Long time no see. The last time you heard us, I was in a desolate apartment with a terrible microphone, and you could hear ambulances in the background. And now, thanks to my great co-host, the Bib, we have an actual mini setup in my basement currently.
Even more desolate. Mike, even worse. So that's what I like to call.
Not a fan of my Bob Marley poster.
That's what I like to call
of my rowing machine and makeshift pool table. Right under the Dominica flag. Shout out all our 14 viewers in Dominica.
Got at least 28.
That would be great. That's like 46% of the population.
All right.
But we're back, and we're very excited to be potting. I had to harass Brian for, honestly, it might be years at this point to get back behind the microphones. But after a lot of convincing, we're here. So you're welcome, listeners. We're back.
I strictly came here to insult Jalen Brunson. I'm just going to put it out there. After 3 months of the same back and forth conversation, I'm just here to verbalize my hatred and see how angry I can get Michael Charles in person. Also, shout out to Shoeless Joes.
Shout out to Shoeless Joes.
I'm trying to rile Michael up before we even start. Anyway.
It's not going to work, but I will be riled up in just a few minutes. As you mentioned, we're going to get to my hatred for the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid at this current moment in time. But before we do, we have to go to our sponsors. We don't have any sponsors. But we will be, on this episode, we will be discussing the NBA playoffs. A lot of Knicks. The
This is a Knicks podcast.
The NFL. Well, we'll talk some Lakers, too. And maybe some Kyle Kuzma as well, for the OG Smoothie and the Bib listeners. Some NFL draft. Are the New York Yankees good? And we also might discuss Drake. I don't know why, but we might. We'll see where it goes.
We're not discussing that. But
at this current moment in time,
I want to know, what is the hatred for Joel Embiid for?
I don't.
Let's get it into it.
We're gonna start. We're gonna start from the top. That's where we're gonna take it out.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine. So as you guys may know, well, if you don't know, now you know. I am a big Knicks fan. Brian over here is a Lakers fan.
From New York. Think about it.
Yeah, it's not what you want. But when it comes down to my hatred for Joel Embiid, I'll take you back to a few days ago as the playoffs were approaching. As you guys know, it was a very heated Eastern Conference race. The Knicks were battling their way to the 2 seed, playing Josh Hart 58 minutes a night, grinding his ACLs to a pulp, and they did it. They got the 2 seed. So obviously we see that playing game with Miami and the Sixers. And going into that game, I wanted Miami. I wanted Miami even more after Jimmy Butler collapsed to the ground holding his knee. If I'm being honest.
Not wishing for injuries.
Not wishing for injuries, but if they're going to happen, I would like my team to be the one to take advantage of it.
Happened. Yes. Okay.
Right. So then I see Philly, and I'm not really too concerned because Embiid didn't look good. Fast forward to game 1, Embiid looks all right. He has the big play, the dunk. Everyone, he's down. He comes back out of half. He looks like a shell of himself. Game 2, he looks pretty good. Kind of decays throughout the game. Starting getting touches at the elbow. Then the 3-point line. Then standing in the corner and watching Tyrese Maxey absolutely destroy Tom Thibodeau defense, which we'll get into in the more analysis part of the Knicks series. But right now, this is just my hatred for Joel Embiid. And through those 2 games, I had no problem with Joel. I had no problem with the Sixers. I have a problem with Kyle Lowry, but that's just because he's really good at winning, and it's really annoying because he does it against the Knicks all the time now. I really like Maxey. I think Nick Nurse is a good coach, but they don't have to pan to him after every single play that he doesn't agree with as he's berating the ref and running to half court.
Everybody does that.
I know, but they show the camera angle so much that they show it on every single one. So it's kind of like, I don't want to see this guy's face anymore. There's other stuff to get into with Nick Nurse. I have some smoke for Daryl Morey as well. So Philadelphia, buckle up. But no, I had no problem with them through the first two games. Like, obviously, game 2 was one of the best Knicks wins in playoff history, in Knicks playoff history. 5
Recent.
points. No, I mean, for the Knicks,
They do have 2 championships.
that's true, but it's their biggest playoff moment in 20 years,
Okay.
maybe 30 years.
Okay.
Larry Johnson.
You still haven't gotten to the hate, and it's very much sounding like the
Okay.
hatred started the minute they won a game.
No. My head. All right. If Joel Embiid scored 50 points and the Knicks lost, and he didn't do any of the theatrics, I tip my cap, because at the end of the day, if Joel Embiid's going to drop 50 and that's how you lose, you just lost to an MVP doing MVP things, and the Knicks can't match that, especially with the way Mackey's playing, and that's fine with me. But obviously, coming out of game 2 with how the game ended with like the no call and
Just one no call,
the
right?
2-minute report. I mean, but all right. Well,
Okay,
all right.
coming out of game 2, I need to hear the hate.
Okay, yeah. So coming out of game 2,
What
obviously
theatrics?
the Sixers file a petition, which is like, all right, now I'm already. You kind of know what the vibe's going to be like. They're going home. Like, you know how the NBA is. They're going to get calls because they complained about it. That's fine. They're going home. They have Joel Embiid. He's one of the best foul baiters in the NBA, foul jars in the NBA, whatever you want to call it. He's 7'2". He's impossible to officiate, and he gets baby whistles sometimes, and that's fine because I root for Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brunson has
Gets a lot of whistles.
dabbled in foul baiting. That's
Dabbled.
fine. Yeah, but all right. Is there not first, this is part of the hate as well. Is there not a significant difference between a 6-foot guy who's actually small getting pushed around versus a 7'2" guy looking to drive and not even looking at the hoop? So that's a great, thank you for leading me down this avenue. First quarter, they come out the gates, and Embiid, obviously the whole we have to be tougher than them. We have to out-tough the Knicks. That's the whole narrative. That's what the Cavs were saying last year. Like, they were talking about the Cavs before the Magic series were pushing each other around to simulate physicality because of what the Knicks did to them last year. So it's like, all right, so now they're going to come in and establish physicality. What that means for Joel Embiid is just like running down the court full speed right into somebody's chest, running down the court, kicking his knee up into Hartenstein's nuts. Like, that's not like, it's the Knicks play physical basketball like in a basketball way. He was just trying to prove a point, like, I'm 7'2" and I'm Joel Embiid and I'm just gonna run around and do what I want. Thoughts? I have more, but I just want to pause.
I understand, but like, it's playoff basketball.
Okay.
Everything is different.
Okay, that's fair.
So I don't see. Okay, I tried to look up the Hartenstein kick in the nuts, and
Yeah.
I didn't get any isolated images in the 3 minutes I had to look it up.
So they didn't call a foul on it initially. They reviewed it when they saw Hartenstein go down to the ground, and they ended up calling it an offensive foul. I've heard a lot of people talk about it today. Tim Legler, a man who I trust and reside in very well, thought it was a 50-50. Like, it could have gone either way, and like Hartenstein kind of got in his way. So that's fine. But it kind of set the tone of like the vibe he was kind of on. Then this play, it's really one play, honestly. Like, it's 2 plays, because the one where he kicked Mitch in the nuts and rolled up on his ankle in the same play was pretty amazing. I don't know. That kind of dexterity is really impressive for a 7'2" guy to kick somebody in the nuts and also roll their ankle, the opposing player's ankle. By the way. But yeah, so Embiid pulls up from 3, flails his arms, yells at the ref, he hit me, jumps and stomps his feet around jumps up and down with both feet stomping like a toddler.
Okay.
Runs down the floor, still yelling at the ref. OG Anunoby drives. He tries to flop to get the call. He doesn't get it. They drop it off to Mitchell Robinson, that is. And as Mitchell Robinson goes up to dunk it, Joel Embiid grabs his knee, hugs his knee, pulls it not just like down, but laterally.
Nice word.
Thank you. I was searching for that word as the sentence got there.
Okay.
But yeah, pulls his knee laterally. Like, Mitch falls back. Joel Embiid like flings his leg back and like gets up. Then it's like obviously OG Anunoby and DiVincenzo walk up to him like, you can't, like, bro, what are you doing? You can't do that shit. And he's like, what are you going to do about it? Like acting all tough as if there's not 14 coaches between them. But it's just like in a moment of frustration under intense scrutiny, I know like he has all the health stuff going on with his knee and his eye and all that. But like the proclamation he made after game 2, we're going to win this series with a better team. Like, it feels like that guy's under just like a lot of stress, and he broke for a second. Like, he did some shit that everyone has, for the most part, has said is like a really dirty play. And then I find out today that he has more flagrants in his career than the entire Knicks roster. He has more flagrants than Draymond Green. Like, clips of him doing this to like Nick Claxton and stuff. And it's just like, if Mitchell Robinson did that to Joel Embiid in that same exact situation, Mitch is gone and suspended. And for him to go on and have 50 and completely shift the tenor of the series while also hurting one of the guys who defends him the best.
Did he hurt him on that play? I didn't.
No, I think he hurt him on another play when he kicked him in the nuts and then rolled up on his ankle.
So your assertion is that Joel Embiid is a dirty player, and so that's where the hatred is coming.
No, that was a dirty play. Like, I don't think he might not in general be a dirty player, but that was a dirty play. Like, you can't. And how he didn't get ejected is ridiculously beyond me. I guess it's the playoffs and the whole thing of the referees would have never made it out of Philly if they made that call. But like,
okay, nobody said that.
Nah, I've heard multiple people say.
I think you've been on a little bit many too many YouTube videos with the Philly fans.
I have watched. No, not with Philly fans, but I have watched a lot of YouTube videos.
I don't think those were legitimate threats. That being said, you don't think all this was a makeup call for what happened in this game too?
I don't think that equates. The reason I don't think that is because that, like, there was a lot of 50-50 calls down the stretch of that game, and there was also so much Philly could have done, no foul call included, to win that game.
That doesn't matter. Then the refs feel like they blew it.
They didn't blow it.
We already know there's a superstar whistle, so you know what type of game it was going to be going into that.
So that means that he can sit on the floor and a 7-footer is jumping for a dunk and he can grab his knee and throw him to the ground? No. If the roles were reversed, what would happen?
It was a bad play.
It was a dirty bad play.
Yeah, it was.
So
I don't know what repercussion you want from me. Like, it was a bad play. He shouldn't have done it.
He injured him.
He injured him on another play, as you said.
Yeah, kicking him in the nuts.
I can't speak to all these incidental
and then conveniently,
nut shots and all these other things. I can't speak to that.
Conveniently after the game, though, of course, as soon as there's a little bit of controversy with his should have been flagrant too. Here comes Woj. Oh no, Joel Embiid has Bell's palsy. Feel bad for him. He had 50. Yay, Joel did something good in the playoffs. Woohoo! Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't think that's how Woj sounds, but
that's how I read it. That's how I read it in my head. It's just convenient because Joel didn't want anyone to know about this and not be a distraction. But also, his agent texted me this just now after he saw the PR campaign against him for kicking people in the nuts. Like, it's just annoying. It swings the whole series just because he gets special treatment because he's an MVP.
Yes,
but yeah, but what other MVP would make a play like that? A dirty play like that? None. That's like role player shit.
I don't know. They always talk about this guy Bob Pettit. I've never seen him play.
I don't care.
I don't know what those old school guys were doing.
I'm talking about when TVs were in color.
Okay. And the league was in color. Sorry.
Well, that too.
No, I can't. I don't know. I really can't say what would have happened to other superstar players who make a dirty play. And like you said, maybe many of them wouldn't have made that play.
What superstar have you ever seen make
besides Draymond?
The Jets
Green?
are on the clock, by the way, as we record this. Sorry.
Right.
I'm very excited. But
besides Draymond, who's a borderline superstar, I'm sure there was a bunch of 90s guys.
But that's
superstars.
That's different because you were allowed to retaliate.
Different basketball.
Yeah, but if it was 1990, they would have put in Jericho Sims and he would have 619'd his Achilles. That's what all the fans were yelling. Put in Jericho.
So what is
slam him? Slam him.
So your whole hatred of Joel Embiid is simply because of the dirty plays. That's it. That's all you need?
Yeah, because my thing was like it went from it's a charity campaign after him. Oh no, he's struggling so he's persevering so much, but it's also like, bro, he just threw a whole temper tantrum and got away with what nobody else in the league would get away with just because for the sake of what? For ratings to make sure they get to
No, because he
make sure we get to Game 5?
Like a superstar player does. That's why. Everything when you win and you play well, everything becomes a part of the narrative and things get forgotten.
So you're allowed to do that?
Not on a regular basis, but once in a while, yeah, you get away with some stuff. You get away with some travels. You get away with some.
So would you?
Some bad plays. You get away with some off the court stuff. You get away with carrying a loaded weapon into different facilities. You get away with some stuff when you're a star.
Shout out Javaris Crittenton.
And that being said, I think a lot of this comes from our argument from 3 months ago. Again, this is the only reason I'm here on this pod. Because you have consistently been asking, what is a 1A player? As Jalen Brunson went on a historic run.
Okay,
one of the great stretches to bring the Knicks to that 2 seed that you talked about. And I have been saying, I feel like that 1A player is not Jalen Brunson, as we have discussed on many occasions. And then, as we get into a playoffs, I feel like you're seeing what exactly a 1A, a superstar, whatever term you want to use, that's what a superstar player does. That's what I think. I think you're shaken to your core by that. After Jalen Brunson's performance in the first 2 games.
We can get to that in a little bit.
No.
That might have been the worst defense of just a dirty play.
There is no defense of a dirty play.
So why did he get to finish the game? Because what is he? All right, so I answer this.
Because they miss calls all the time. That's number one.
Okay, but that
and number 2.
Yeah, but
league superstars get leniency.
They miss calls.
Is that not a fact?
It's not a regular call. They went to the monitor and looked at it.
They do. They are.
He threw him to the ground.
They are horrible.
Threw his leg out the way, got up, and then tried to.
I think you're putting a little sauce on it, but sure. We're not going to pause the podcast. What I saw was he grabbed his ankle. You're talking about his knee. He grabbed his leg and he moved it, which is obviously not a basketball play. And it's obviously,
no, he didn't move it.
It's obviously dirty.
He didn't move it.
It's obviously a bad play.
He pulled him out the air.
It's obviously not a basketball play. Is that the most dangerous thing I've seen on a basketball court? No. To me, it's not. To me, hacking someone while they're leaping from 16 feet, and although
a 7-footer,
I know that's a basketball play, so it's fine. But that's far more dangerous.
A 7'2" guy,
whatever he did.
A 7'2", 300-pound man grabbing the knee of a guy who just came back from a 4-month absence to an ankle injury, and grabbing him and pulling him out the air, and then throwing his leg off of him.
No,
it's dirty.
It's a dirty play, and he shouldn't have done it.
And he did it because he didn't get a foul call, and he was trying to prove a point.
Point proved. They didn't call it.
But that's crazy.
It is.
So I hate Joel Embiid.
That's fine.
And I'm warranted in that because he just hurt one of our best players.
Okay. Maybe this is the rivalry the NBA has needed in the Eastern Conference.
No, it's not a rivalry.
For many years.
No rivalry.
Now you hate Joel Embiid, and now let's go get back to the basketball. Despite all the other hysterics, which he rightfully, as you pointed out, deserves. Is this a superstar player?
To tie a bow on the Embiid thing.
Okay, tie a bow.
Before we move on to the basketball of it all.
To the basketball, yeah.
If the league retroactively suspended Joel Embiid for Game 4.
Not going to happen, but okay.
There's precedence. What would your reaction be?
I would be surprised if they did it. I wouldn't be up in arms that they did.
Do you think that it should be on the table based on the fact of they don't eject him for anyone else in the NBA act would have done and would have gotten tossed, and he goes on to drop 50? Do you think just letting bygones be bygones and letting the series roll on is justified? Because I don't think comparing the Game 2 and Game 3 thing.
Why not?
Because it's not the same.
How is it not the same?
We can all look at they missed a call here, this there. Like, the same thing that they didn't call on Maxey is the same. There's clips in the same game in the first quarter of them denying Brunson 94 feet and doing the same, pulling his jersey. Like, they could check the 2-minute report and say anything, but the game was decided not by that call, but by
partially by that call.
Less by the call than by the missed free throw. After the nurse not calling timeout, Maxey getting the ball, falling on the ground, him not calling timeout, him trying to throw the ball through Josh Hart's legs, him laying there for the entire whatever happens next. That 4 guys watching Hartenstein grab a rebound and DiVincenzo making a 3. is more than just the ref missing a jersey pull. And that was after 48 minutes of basketball. If you toss Embiid at the end of the first quarter for something that genuinely, like if it was a 50-50 call, like that was one of the dirtiest plays I've seen, not by Draymond Green or Grayson Allen or Dylan Brooks.
The Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, the big three. The Heatles of flagrants. That was one of the dirtiest plays I've seen in a while. Like that, like I wouldn't be up in arms if it was just like there was a flagrant a few plays before that with Kyle Lowry and DiVincenzo, and it wasn't a big deal. Like it was just like, all right, it's a flagrant run, we move on. But like that was crazy, and then he gets to play the next
I don't think
two quarters and drop 50.
In the same way that you're saying, you cannot say because whatever happened, you can't blame it on one play the game before. You also can't then give the Knicks the win, quote unquote, because he would have been thrown out at that point in the game. You don't know if Maxi's going to go off for 70. You don't know how that game is going to be impacted. But so if you want to say, based on the fact that he made an overtly dirty play, that he should be suspended, I can go either way with that. I'm not going to be up in arms. I'd be surprised if they did it to a superstar, sure. But I'm not going to be upset that they did. I'm also not going to be upset that they don't.
If you're Adam Silver, do you think it's a good look for your league that your MVP last year is throwing tantrums and being rewarded for his tantrums?
If you're Adam Silver, the story is going to be our former MVP on one leg with one eye just scored 50 points. That's the story that Adam Silver is going to write on the print media. And you know that.
Oh, that's what. So I think that's what happened when they were checking in with Secaucus for the replay.
Okay.
There's a picture of Adam Silver saying, "Don't do it." just doing money signs.
Now, if he does it again, if he does something overtly dirty,
if he does it again,
then yes,
I can't.
Then yes, I will be on your side that he has to be at least suspended.
I was going to say something so egregious into his microphone. I'll leave.
I'm glad you didn't.
But that man, nah.
He can't. He's crossed the line, and he cannot cross it again. Sure, that I will agree with you on. Now, that being said,
I think it's a bit ambitious for a guy with one functioning eye to be trying to start all this havoc. You have a lot on your plate right now, Joel. Calm down. You don't need a suspension on top of it.
You're right. He does it.
I want to see a nice, good series. When Joel Embiid went down in Game 1, I was genuinely concerned because that looked bad. And also, I'd rather the Knicks beat them at full strength than get a charity case into the next round. And then, I think if they beat Philly, they'll be battle-tested. And now we can get into the basketball of it after 21 minutes of why I hate Joel Embiid. So we'll speed that up for you guys. But getting into the basketball of it, where are you at? Knicks up 2-1, Game 4, Sunday afternoon in the terrible city of Philadelphia. Just kidding, Philly. We love you.
No, I really did like Philly. I went there once. It was a sad, sad trip. Anyway, the basketball of it, I think the Knicks have won 2 scrappy games. They really don't quit. They really are quite a team, which is what I've said as I've watched them more as this upcoming season. I do as the season ended, I should say. I will say I've had the argument we've had back and forth really is where we place Jalen Brunson, and then the separate argument has been where we place the Knicks as a whole. And so the Knicks as a whole, I haven't felt like they were a serious contender. Just because of the makeup of their team. Obviously, Julius Randle's hurt. Obviously, different people have been hurt. I don't think they're enough with Julius Randle, regardless. So that's where I've been on the Knicks, and them not being a real contender. That still seems to hold true to me after those. I know they're up 2-1, and I'm putting a lot on the Sixers coming back. But to me, even if they don't come back, this still looks like the team I thought they were, which is a solid regular season team that I think has a questionable ceiling. And, how far can they really go is my question. No.
How far can they go with the rotation as it is currently?
The rotation as it is currently.
Sans Randle on the back burner until next year?
Yes, Sans Randle, and Julius Randle is not changing the narrative for me. And the second argument that we've had has been where do we rank Jalen Brunson? And that's been the question. I think that's been the question for much of the league. And for me, I've been consistently asking you, is he on the tier of a superstar player? Is he on the tier of a superstar player, meaning has he surpassed Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox and all the other great point guards in this league to be put into a secondary, into the other tier? And you've consistently told me that he's better than those guys.
You starting with the list of Tyrese Halliburton makes me want to throw up on this microphone.
Why?
Because he's better than Tyrese Halliburton. But I like Tyrese Halliburton.
He can be better than Tyrese Halliburton slightly. Maybe even significantly if you want. But he's not into that other tier of a superstar. And to me, I've been trying to summarize what is a superstar player besides just you know it when you see it. And I think to me, very much so, a superstar player is a player whose seasons are going to be defined by what they do in the postseason and not what they do in the regular season. So I think that's a big marker for what a superstar is. And so for me, when I say he's in that tier 2, when I keep him there and I don't put him to that superstar level, that means those players who are in that tier can have outstanding years, months. But when we get into the postseason, we know they're going to be limited by some metric. So that's been my question, and how Jalen has played. Obviously, he played better in that third game, but he wasn't the dominating force that he was in the regular season. And then the first 2 games we don't have to talk about. So to me, it's seeming to come true, and I know the Sixers have defended him well, and Kelly Oubre has defended him well specifically, but he's looking like the player that I thought he was, which is a great player who is not going to be the leader on a championship team and who is going to be limited for whatever reason. Maybe it's size, maybe it's defense, maybe it's not, maybe it's athleticism, maybe whatever it is. He's limited in some way that prevents him from being into that next tier of superstar with the Luka Doncic's and the looking like Anthony Edwards, not going to put him there. Looking like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, not going to put him there yet. But those level of player, the LeBron James from his prime, all those type of players.
Prime LeBron.
All those players, superstar, game-changing, 1A, whatever you want to call it, players. And I don't think Jalen Brunson is there as of yet, and I don't think he's going to be there. But what are your thoughts on Jalen Brunson's performance so far and all the arguments we've had for the past 3 months that I've had to do over text while I...
That's the real reason we're recording this podcast.
Obviously.
We would just...
Did you think we were going to record another one after this? Go on.
He might not be kidding, guys. But no, yeah, we used to just sit on FaceTime and have these conversations for literally an hour as I sped down the New Jersey Turnpike. Of course, going the speed limit, of course. But yeah, so to get to Brunson,
the speed limit. To get to Brunson,
stepping on it. To get to Brunson, I think you're jumping to a lot of conclusions off of 3 games because I think we have a sample size of last year in the playoffs to go off of to say that it's not. Because I saw some people saying that, like, oh, small guards, like, spinning the block immediately after his first bad game in months to say small guards can't do it in the playoffs. But meanwhile, we've seen the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, with a hobble Jimmy Butler and then with no Jimmy Butler, like, giving the Sixers a run for their money and then even taking a game out of Boston. And Brunson averaged almost 32 points a game against that team last year in the playoffs. Then that team went to the NBA Finals. So I think making any big conclusions off of Brunson's playoff sustainability based off of these first 3 games is not necessarily fair. Like I'm not saying that he will definitely get to this certain tier that Brian's discussing. And to be clear, I don't have him there yet. I think he's an ascending player. I think the point that you made about kind of how great players, superstars, seasons aren't necessarily defined by their regular seasons but their playoffs. I hear that point, but I also think that no other team kind of in the playoffs is missing their co-star. I mean, obviously Dame right now without Giannis, and look, but that's gotten them down 2-1, which we'll get into in a little bit. But like I think that it makes it a little complicated just to kind of assess the season. Like if they lose in this round to the Sixers, because Embiid continues to be dominant, then like you kind of tip your cap.
No, you don't tip your cap. No,
what do you mean?
You absolutely do not tip your cap.
He was the MVP.
We talked about what you expect your Knicks to do and where you expect them to go, and it was not a first round exit. So you can't then.
I also didn't know Joel Embiid was coming back, and I didn't know they were going to play Joel Embiid, and I didn't know that they were going to get this version of the Sixers. Like I didn't know that. I thought like at that point in time when we had that conversation, I was expecting Cleveland or Orlando, and I was expecting like the 4 or 5. I was not expecting to get to 2. So like, and also like Philly's one of the best 7 seeds that we've seen in recent memory, in terms of the Eastern Conference at least. Like that team was on pace for 65 wins with Embiid healthy. So it's like it's a weird circumstance. Like if you lose to Embiid and Embiid averages 40 in the series and Maxey averages 30 and Brunson averages 30 and they lose the series in 7, like obviously I have bigger expectations and I think this going into the series I thought it was a coin flip. Like I thought it could go either way. The betting odds reflected that. Like they were basically both teams were even money. Like it was all came down to the health of Embiid, and if Embiid was coming into the series 100%, this wouldn't even the odds would be way in the Sixers' favor. So it's kind of like putting it in context. Like obviously, I was not encouraged by games 1 and 2. I'm like trying to figure out kind of how they can get easier offense for him. It's like he has to work so hard to get open right now because like obviously the Knicks' offense runs entirely through him and otherwise through like Hartenstein as a hub, but like it's like Oubre's picking him up 94 feet, then he's got to give up the ball to Hartenstein, run around the baseline through like 3 screens, get the ball, and then go one-on-one against a tilted defense because they're still not guarding Josh Hart, so they're kind of hedging 2 towards him. So they're asking a lot of him. And obviously, like you say Randall, but I think Randall commands a certain level of presence and attention that would make that a lot easier for him. But I think you saw what I saw in games 1 and 2 was kind of like Brunson really couldn't get. He couldn't really get. He was getting to the same spots, but he wasn't converting.
He missed a lot of shots that I saw in the regular season that he did usually make, which I had to eat my words. But that was always my concern that he's a tough shot maker, and how can he consistently do this in the playoffs?
But he did. But he's done it. He did it for 2 series last year, and we're using 2-game sample size to say that now.
No. Like I said, this is just points of the evidence of the tier of player that he is. Because to me, you also sound like you're limiting him. Because you can't say this is always my confusion. Because you cannot say he's significantly better than all the great point guards in this league, than Jamal Murray, than whoever I want to throw out there, and then turn around and say, well, they're guarding him better. Then he's turning around.
I didn't say significantly better.
You have said significantly better because I've brought out this point when discussing the Knicks as a whole. If we use the Nuggets as a sample size, Jokic is what? Like I say, 65, 70% of a championship. That's what the great players are. They're 70% of a championship. Then there's 20% in their co-star, or 25%, or whatever. Let's make the math work. And then the other team, they're 20% of a championship. And then the rest of the team is the remaining 10%. And when I say that's what I think Jalen Brunson is. He's the 20%. He's maybe 25% because he's a little better than Jamal Murray. You tell me he's closer to Jokic than he is to Murray. So I don't understand how you could then turn around and then say, oh, well, he's hurt or he doesn't have a lot of help. He doesn't have enough help. If you are closer to Nikola Jokic than you are to Jamal Murray.
We disagreed on the percentage of how much Jokic is. Like
that's
Jokic,
fine.
You say Jokic is 60%. I say Jokic is 80.
80%?
Bro, he's a top 5 center of all time probably already. He's one of the best players of all time.
Fugazi MVPs in there, but still. But that is my grander scale point.
Like he's not that kind. Brunson's not that kind of player. But there's only like how many of them?
But that's my grander scale argument on the Knicks. That's what we always get around to. The history of the league is generally you get one of those top 15 guys and then they win, and then everybody else has nice teams and then they lose.
So my thing with that is like that's. But how come? Where we reach with Brunson that he drops 39 and 13 in a playoff game and everyone's just like, oh, Jalen Brunson's back.
I think we all know how Fugazi's different stats can be and how you can drop different stats and not have the impact on the game that you have. Like Jalen's 39 and that game is not the 39 he was having during different games in the regular season. The Knicks have the highest or
second highest offensive rating in the playoffs, even with Brunson struggling the way he did because of the gravity that he creates and the way that he moves the offense as a 6 foot guard.
And also Josh Hart being Klay Thompson.
Well, I think that's part. We can get to the basketball part of it and leave the Brunson thing alone for now. But that's part of it. Like if you're gonna treat it like last year, Josh Hart got exposed because Miami didn't want to guard him. They left him wide open. So coming into the playoffs, he knew that was gonna be what Nick Nurse tried to do to him, and he locked himself in the gym and he shot for a week straight. If your game plan is gonna be disrespect an NBA player, leave him wide open, and see if it works out. That's like you said, like it's not like Josh Hart is shooting these crazy. Like I know he had that one crazy shot in game one, but like he's literally just shooting wide open, catch and shoot spot threes because they're overhelping on Brunson. So that's just poor game planning by Nick Nurse, and not like, oh my gosh, I can't. Josh Hart's not like that. As the New York Football Giants draft Andrew Phillips, cornerback, Kentucky.
Don't know why you
What are your thoughts on the
interrupted the pod to say that, but the Giants are a terrible franchise.
We'll get to that a little bit as well. So or maybe in next episode because we're taking a long time. But I'm determined to get through all the points.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess to kind of, since we are kind of very Knicks dependent at this moment in the pod, to kind of put it all in summation. Like you said, the Knicks won 2 gritty games. They did what the Knicks do. They found a way. They played all 48 minutes. They played physical. They got rebounds. They did the whole thing. Brunson struggled, but they still found a way to win and picked him up. Big moments from Deuce, big moments from Bogey. Devo had moments, Hartenstein. Honestly, like, kind of what the Knicks are, like the whole team kind of putting it together. That's kind of what this team has been about, next man up. Like, no egos, just kind of figuring out as we go along. And that's kind of been their mantra all season.
Does any of that sound like a championship team to you?
I think,
because that sounds like the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies from when I was a kid.
But I think my thing with that is like, I don't know necessarily this year. Like, I think a lot of it hinges on like, I think if they get through Philly, they have a really good chance because this is as good of a first round challenge as you're going to get in the playoffs this year. I think the next round will be interesting, but I think they will probably be favored in the Milwaukee versus Indiana winner. Then obviously Boston becomes a thing. I have to see more proof of concept from Boston over the next 2 rounds. Obviously they'd be the favorite, but I mean if our challenge is beating, like that's the thing, is beating Boston obviously, but that's neither here nor there.
Gotta get through Philly first.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel as well. But I think Philly's a tougher matchup than whoever they get in the second round, and so I think if they can beat Philly, it'd be really promising. So I mean, so as we're going into Game 4, I don't really know how to feel about this series, honestly. A lot of like conflicting factors. Obviously, we talked about the refereeing from game to game. How is Embiid gonna look? But like that was just a weird game. Like Embiid had 50. Philly shot 33 free throws. Embiid shot 21 free throws. The Knicks shot 19 as a whole. Embiid scored like 18 in the fourth quarter on 1 field goal. He made 4 threes, 5 for 7, and 5 for 7 overall, 4 threes in the third quarter. The Sixers overall went 9 for 12 from 3 in the third quarter. The Knicks won every quarter but that third quarter where they got completely lit up from deep. Campaign had 11 points off the bench, 3 or 4 from deep. So it was a weird game from that standpoint because obviously Philly's gotten nothing from their role players throughout this series. But even if they do get stuff from the rest of their team, to expect them to shoot at that clip is just unrealistic. Embiid and Maxey combined for 75. DiVincenzo had 5 points. Bogey had a couple points. And all that being said, and the Knicks lose by 10. And this was a game with 6 minutes left still somehow. I think that's the positives of it, but it also could be the negatives where Brunson has his best game and they still lose. So it could really go either way. Like I don't know what the whistle's going to look like. Mitch's status is in the air.
That dirty camera.
Yeah, no, I hate him. Not you, Samuel. I thought we love you. But, yeah, it's just a weird place to be at. Like, I think the fulcrum of, like, kind of figuring out where the Knicks – sorry, fulcrum. Where the Knicks role players are going to be from game to game is, like, obviously, like, the thing that people question and, like, you yourself question about, like, where they're going to get the offense from. But it seems like every game they find at least 2 or 3 guys to step up and go on the ride with Jalen. So, I don't know. I mean, Maxey and them combined for 70, and Embiid combined for 75, and you lose by 10 on the road in a game that they had to win. Like, you don't feel terrible, but it's also like if Embiid is going to not be as hobbled and you can't stop Embiid, like, it's just kind of you don't have an answer, especially if Mitch is out. So I think this series can go 6 or 7. I really don't. I don't feel great coming out of yesterday's game just because, like, to expect Embiid and Maxey to be, I mean, they've been hot, so maybe they're off at some point, but to expect them to not continue to kill is not necessarily where I'm at right now. And they're asking a lot from Brunson. They're asking Josh Hart to continue to make shots like this. So I don't know. I don't know where the series goes from here, but somehow I sound like this, and the Knicks are up 2-1 in the playoff series against the reigning MVP. So, no, who knows? The tenors can change, but hopefully
Joel's suspended, and
that'd be great. Well, hopefully the Knicks just win the series.
Joel Embiid is a superstar, and that's the difference between a superstar and not a superstar.
Is that you get to throw tantrums with no repercussions.
Is that you can play with one leg and half of your face, and yeah, you get a light whistle, but you know what? You're so good they have to foul you.
That's not, but okay.
Not to mention,
we're not going down that.
Not to mention,
because he doesn't.
You're on one leg shooting threes over 7-footers just in their mouth, and that's the limitations of athleticism. Because as great as Jalen Brunson is,
so what happens if the Knicks
he's gonna have to make a lot of tough shots.
So when does the Knicks win the series? Where does your mighty Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey duo, and he defeats them? Where does that change anything
impact
on your Brunson meter?
It depends how he's gonna play. If they beat them the way that they've won these past 2 games, not much is gonna change.
Why? Because if the Knicks,
he plays the way he's played these next 3 games, if he has 2 terrible games and another okay game, another good game,
39-13 is good.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's a type of 39-13. You know, there's different types of 39-13.
The Knicks lose by how much if Brunson doesn't do that?
I don't know. How many points have the Lakers lost by with LeBron's stat line? And we know
that's a great segue. That's a great
segue.
That's a great segue as Brian harasses me about my Knicks fandom. Brian, Lakers fan.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
This is what was expected and anticipated. The Lakers aren't a good team. We know that. See, here's the thing that's frustrating for me, and you pointed this out. You said you don't want to see LeBron James be washed. I don't think anybody does, but there is a certain point where when they first played the Nuggets, obviously we saw them play them in the bubble where they won, and that was probably LeBron with a lot less thousands of minutes on his legs. That was them with a different roster construction where they had, I don't know, maybe big people to guard the largest man in the league. That might make sense, having, somebody who can defend a large person instead of,
Anthony Davis, though.
He's one man. He's one person. And then if you bring him out, then they also have nobody in the paint. But whatever.
It's not a fan of Jackson.
The point of what I was saying was before, huh? Jackson Hayes to do what?
No.
Jump around as a Head and Shoulders commercial? What do you want from Jackson Hayes? What's frustrating to me is that when those Western Conference final days and even the years moving forward, I was like, I did not hate that matchup. I thought AD going at Jokic and then having LeBron being able to do LeBron things with nobody to guard him. Obviously, Aaron Gordon has made a difference. Obviously, Michael Porter being the most lethal shooter that anybody has known is a different.
And Jonte's at the crib betting, smashing the overs, spamming the overs.
Obviously, that have changed things, but I've never hated the matchup until you see the decline in LeBron James of where he is, because there's some turnarounds and some movements that are happening with Jamal Murray, and there was a time you just know LeBron James that things would be in the stand, and he's just not there anymore, and that's father time. And so you wonder how many. I really wanted him to play with Bryce, which was really outlandish for me to think. I don't think it's gonna happen now, and that's just kind of makes me sad. And I want LeBron to hold on for as long as possible, and we could probably have some better roster construction, because the Lakers are pretty much solely dependent on how good is Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell shooting the basketball. That's kind of what decides Lakers games, which is not what you think of when you see their starting lineup. So it's a little frustrating. And Darvin Ham is an interesting coach as well. Interesting.
It's weird because barring a crazy heater from Jamal Murray and just or maybe a LeBron made 3, you can't even fault LeBron. He went crazy down that stretch of the game too. But I think that's just hard to overcome. Like what happened in Game 3 was like the final straw, but the tenor of the series is so different heading back to LA. If you finally got the monkey off your back, you beat Denver in Denver, and you're going back to LA 1-1. But I mean, it was kind of the similar situation that Philly was in last night, where it's just like your season's basically on the line in Game 3. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And
I mean, they really lost it in Game 2.
What?
When they were up 20.
That's what I'm saying. But once you lose that game, like it puts so much pressure on this Game 3, where it's like if you're now down 2-1 and you still have a game at home, like morale is high. You have proof of concept that you beat them in Denver, and that's really big for morale. But like as we know, with the way that it's gone for them against Denver over the last couple of years, like that had to be just like mentally draining, and also like it's not great to hear like consistent quotes from your best players talking about we have no identity on either end. We have no idea what we're doing. And Darvin Ham just like I don't know. I don't think that's true. I don't know why he said that into your tape recorder, but I don't really feel like
out of the press conferences, just leaving piles of steam. I mean, also LeBron missed a shot though, which is always what's so interesting about the NBA, that we could do all the theories and the ups and downs and the lefts and rights and back and forth and roster construction, and it came down to LeBron James had a wide open 3-pointer and he missed it. So, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, as they say. But there's also a point where that if LeBron James is five years younger and they're on a 20-0 or 19 whatever run, that at a certain point LeBron James would have grabbed the basketball and you could have put 17 people on the court. Yeah. And that 20-0 run was ending right here, right now, and that's the end of it. Yeah. But it's, that's what happens. And I have to give credit to AD, who is one of the most heavily critiqued superstars that we have in the league. And I'm always get confused on where exactly do I rank AD, because it's just I think the shooting is just so inconsistent from AD. I think that's what does it for me. Because if AD could hit a couple more threes, I think I could properly rank him. But the intensity, the effort, the hustle, the playing through everything, he's done it all, and it's just not enough. So that's a bit frustrating, but I do want to give him his credit and his props for that. It's just, D'Angelo Russell put up the same amount of points as me. And so that's and he played 26 minutes. So that's interesting.
Was eating fruit snacks on the bench at the end of the game. I mean, with AD, for me, it's like my thing was like the always doubtful. Like, it's funny, but it's also like it did have a big impact on how people viewed him as a player. But this year, he was on my fantasy team, great value, well below ADP, and I got him, so I was very excited. But and he stayed healthy, and I think that's the biggest thing with AD. It's funny how people magically get healthy when it determines your contract in 65 games and all that. Everyone's magically healed and playing all these games. But I think for me with AD, it's like the way that he just kind of disappears. And I guess Game 2 was or was it Game 1? That was a prime example where he just he had 20 at half and then just was not heard from again. And is that an AD thing? Is that a Darvin Ham thing? That's a chicken or egg kind of question. But I mean, most Lakers fans would probably say it's Darvin's fault. But I guess bigger picture,
he's probably confused by seeing people he's never seen before.
Who? Are you
passing him the ball?
Are you on our team?
Hi,
I'm Max Christie. Nice to meet you.
Darwin, let's put him out there.
Give him a shot.
Go out. Darwin, it's the fourth quarter of the playoffs.
Taurean Prince again? I guess bigger picture for the Lakers, obviously I think LeBron has a player option this summer, and I'm sure he will try to leverage that and somehow to get something that he wants.
Big picture. The NBA script says LeBron James comebacks from 3-0 down. That's what I see. On his way to his 5th NBA championship.
As a promo for Game 4. Scrolls across my screen. Let's assume that they're not going to do something historic and come back from 3-0 down.
I wouldn't assume that.
Okay. Where do the Lakers go from here? I've heard Lakers Twitter clamoring for Klay Thompson. I don't know if that's your solution at all. I think you have an aging LeBron, who is still LeBron and still one of the best players in the league, but not what we once considered him. Anthony Davis coming off one of his healthiest seasons in a long time. Austin Reeves, who I like as a player and makes big shots in the playoffs, is a good secondary creator. Actually can even be your main creator in certain instances. But beyond that, a lot of question marks, not a lot of draft capital. The Bronny thing obviously swarming around. Where do you think the Lakers go from here as this offseason kind of looms?
Well,
It could be here soon.
I hope they get the young LeBron, Ramon James Jr., but the Lakers are in a no-win situation. The Lakers are in what most smart GMs would do is tear down and rebuild. That's what the Lakers would do.
So
That being said, we're not going to do that. We're going to ride it until the wheels fall off, and we're going to smile, and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to take our lashings when we get to the playoffs and hope we get the right playoff matching. What we're going to do is we're going to recycle the bottom end of our roster like we always do. Probably recycle Darwin. And we're going to go and we're going to do it again and again and again. Then LeBron James is going to retire in purple and gold. Maybe he'll sign a one day with the Cavs. Think he'd do that? I don't think he'd do that.
So,
and that's it. We're going to do that for the next 4 years, and then we'll rebuild.
going back to a conversation that we had decades ago at this point.
Yeah.
When we were debating if you should trade Lonzo and Joshua and B.I.
Yeah.
for Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Still worth it?
Unequivocally, yes.
Okay.
Without a shadow, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
If the next 10 years of Lakers basketball is desolate, you'll hold on to that Mickey Mouse ring forever?
Now it's a Mickey Mouse ring.
Well, you were
I
the
think
only
it's just
team
a championship
to win
ring.
in an empty gym. It has to be noted.
Yes, and everybody who was in that empty gym seemed to really struggle with it, except for the people who won it. So I refuse to degrade LeBron. Another one of LeBron James's rings. All right, he was able to keep his team together. Okay,
So worth it?
of course it was worth it.
Cool.
Well, what are we supposed to do? Keep stacking draft picks on top of draft picks on top of draft picks?
I bet you wish you had Kevin Knox right now. Because I do.
Do I wish
What
we had
dark,
Kevin Knox
dark
right
times.
Listen.
Those clips have to be scrubbed from the internet of me trying to defend Frank Ntilikina,
now?
Kevin Knox as the top 5 core in the
There
NBA.
are certain franchises who are really good at rebuilding and doing it. The one that comes to mind is obviously the Packers, of being like consistently good, of knowing when the right time. The Patriots, obviously, of knowing when the right. Obviously, they had a great player with them, but whatever. And I went cross sports, but there's a lot of teams that just consistently are good and rebuild and do it earlier. That's not the Lakers formula.
Yeah, they are.
The Lakers formula is you get the superstar players, you have your window, you put every single piece you have all in, and you hope the cards come up your way. Because when they do, God, it's so much fun. And when you are poor, you save up again. And then you go back to that casino and you put it back all in. That's what the Lakers do. And I love it. So we're down, baby, but we're coming. We're coming. Just give us 5, 7, 8 years, and we'll be right back there.
Five.
I'm waiting for Anthony Edwards because I don't. Have you selected your next superstar? Have you selected whatever player you're gonna ride? You could. Everybody has their player, right? So you don't gotta be a fan of the team. You find somebody else, and that's really your guy. Because I'm an Anthony Edwards guy. I think everybody's an Anthony Edwards guy. I'm an Anthony Edwards guy. You can't say Shea because I've heard you hate on him to try and defend Jalen. The people haven't heard you, but I've heard you. I'm putting it out
hate
there.
on Shy. I said Shy should win MVP, so I didn't hate on Shy. I have an ongoing agenda that Jalen Brunson is better than Anthony Edwards currently.
Oh, okay.
Ceiling not in question.
I didn't even know that.
Ceiling not in question. Anthony Edwards obviously is higher ceiling. I'm not gonna lie, I can't think of any names besides Jalen Brunson, so I'm gonna rock with Jalen Brunson.
Anyway, I'm an Anthony Edwards guy.
Brandon Miller.
Okay. I'm an Anthony Edwards guy. That is a really interesting series, though. Nuggets and Timberwolves, and I really want to see that series. I know they're only up.
The Gobert, yeah. The Gobert.
To have the bodies to throw at Jokic.
Is that what would be next?
No, I don't think it would be next. I think it would have to be in the Western Conference Finals, but I would. Because
Denver's 2.
No, Denver's 2. Yeah.
No.
Timberwolves are 3-6, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do the playoff maths in our head right now.
So that's a good segue.
That's what I want to know. Is just Anthony Edwards is just so much fun to watch.
No, he is.
He's so dynamic. The shooting touch is there. The confidence, the swag.
Yeah.
Oh man. The battles that him and John Morant would have if John Morant wasn't battling court cases, it would be great. But
if he didn't have the blicky with him.
But that being said, like this guy's John Morant's in rap beef with Drake. It's great. Anyway,
shout out Drake.
We
see you, GOAT.
No, but for real, like Anthony Edwards is my guy. That's what I want to see. I need Timberwolves on national TV more. That's what I need.
So we've escaped our team biases for a moment,
Okay.
and we're gonna get to go around the league. Thanks, Brian, for rescuing us after 54 minutes of Knicks and Lakers talk. And Joel Embiid still sucks 54 minutes in.
Okay.
And he should obviously be suspended for Game 4, but it goes without saying. And hopefully by the time you're hearing this, if you even hear this, he's suspended for Game 4. Timberwolves, Suns, interesting series. The Suns kind of had their number during the regular season. Everyone knows playoff basketball is different. And Minnesota seems to be up to the challenge, especially after last year. They gave Denver a decent run for their money in the first round. I don't remember the final score of that series was, but I know that they gave him a decent run for their money. And Anthony Edwards looks impressive in his second playoffs. Him obviously having that back and forth with KD, which went viral.
I've never believed the clip though, like them saying what he said.
Oh, I don't know what he said, but I just saw him talking to KD.
Yeah.
But he's been also like big on praising him, so I think it's just competitive. And we've seen this before with KD. Like, it's just part of the game. It's just talking. It happens. But I think it's just really interesting, kind of a concept on just like team building. How if you look at Phoenix, where they didn't have to pay a lot for Bradley Beal, they're stuck with that contract now, which is like a whole another issue as we look ahead for Phoenix. But like it's an interesting concept in team building because now you're relying a lot on Grayson Allen and Nurkic, and in the playoffs when Grayson Allen was shooting 48% from three, now he's not really getting those looks as easily as he would like.
What? You told me that teams that role players could never possibly lose percentage points in the playoffs because we had these discussions, and you told me that the math that's not how math works. And statistically, if a great player has had a great season or is a historically pretty good shooter.
We were talking about the Knicks, so it was. I'm sure what I said was completely relevant and accurate.
Okay. Anyway, go on.
And should not be held against me in a court of law. But it's just been interesting to see because, like, you kind of see teams like, for example, like the Knicks, honestly, or Miami even, who have like a deeper team that are fine, like that just fit together better. And it just seemed like whether it was the injuries. Or probably, honestly, mostly just the injuries. Like, Booker, Beal, and Durant never really, like, meshed. And we never really saw them clicking at high levels. Like, the way that even, like, the Clippers had a stretch where they had all their guys and they were kind of rolling. We never really saw that from Phoenix the whole year, which is how they ended up in the sixth spot and just inside the play in the first place. But, I mean, it's just interesting to kind of look at that team dynamic and especially, like, where they could be headed. They traded all their firsts for Kevin Durant. They traded all their draft picks basically and are stuck with a contract of Beal. It's scary to be in the point where like you might have to trade your most valuable asset to build a team moving forward, which is Booker, and like it might even be like a situation where depending on how this goes, like Booker is the one asking out, maybe, who knows, and obviously would be a target of Leon Rose and CAA. But that's not neither here nor there. I'm locked into the playoffs. I'm rocking with my guys. No one's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But no, just an interesting concept because me and Brian always go back and forth about how teams are built, and Brian's always been pro-star, which is understandable considering he lives in New York and roots for the Lakers and has had Kobe and LeBron his whole life. That's neither here nor there, but I think that there's nuance to each of our points in between, and I'm sure you'll learn more about our draft philosophy and our team building philosophy as we go along. But that's an interesting series to monitor. That one is Game 3. Could be on as we speak, or will be on tonight, and you'll know the result of that before we do. I think it's 2-0, right?
Yeah.
Sure?
No.
Right.
But I said it with confidence.
All right,
so
I think it's 2-0.
Yeah,
It is 2-0 Minnesota. We talked Lakers. We have Orlando. No, sorry. Staying in the West. We have OKC taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. No Zion, of course. Game 1 was close. Came down to the wire. Big shot by Shea. Big miss by CJ McCollum. Pelicans are a good team. Trey Murphy's really stepped up with Zion out. He was a good player last year, obviously like a small role, and obviously the emergence of Herb Jones, they kind of split those minutes as the big wing. But they're a good team, and it's cool to see OKC on the stage. Didn't know what to expect from them in the playoffs. Obviously, this isn't their biggest test, but it is good to get that first experience under their belt. Jalen Williams looks good. Chet had a big game in game two. Um, yeah, any thoughts on that series as it
I think we have different definitions of what good is, and again,
Who?
for the Pelicans being a good team, the Pelicans are okay. That being said, again, no trouble when trading Brandon Ingram for Anthony Davis and an NBA championship. That being said,
Fair.
the Thunder being young is one of the really interesting things because we do. I think a lot of people who buys into media narratives. I'm a media narrative buyer.
This is where we differ.
The fact that they're just young, so they're automatically going to lose, is pretty interesting. I think they have to be tested for that youth to show up, and even if there is that youth, Shea has been in the league for quite a while, so they do hopefully have the plan of when everything is going terribly, hopefully Shea gets us out of it. So they are a very interesting team. Just to speed it along, you have the superstar matchup of the Lukas and Kyrie versus the All-Star, the 2016 WNBA West All-Star team.
Which we should have been watching this entire time and not the NFL draft.
But that's an interesting series. They are 1-1 at the moment, battling it out. Luka Doncic is starting to get into that area of everyone has acknowledged that he's a superstar. He's playing more defense, and he's going to have to start winning games and making deeper runs. So this is a very interesting series, especially with Kawhi coming off his injury, as he's perpetually injured. And we'll see. We'll see what Harden does. We'll see all these things. That the Clippers seem to just have a team that shouldn't work together, and they are very close to it being blown up as well. But we'll see.
As we speak, Game 3 is on my television set. Dallas Mavericks are up 17 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Kyrie just hit a big three, and Daniel Gafford just had a fantastic block on Paul George. If Dallas wins this game, they're up 2-1, like we said. This was a series that many people were anticipating. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Kawhi has to miss Game 1 after having a pretty healthy regular season. But I don't think it would be too much of an upset. Obviously, it's a 4-5, so it's kind of a coin flip. But Dallas is a kind of a dark horse team in the West and have gotten considerate hype in recent weeks, especially how they close the season with the addition of Gafford, with the addition of P.J. Washington, the way Derek Lively's been playing. So I don't think it would be too surprising if they were able to win this series. And I think they have a good chance against anybody because it's just kind of hard to stop Luka and Kyrie for 7 games.
Yeah, stars. Am I right?
There's 2 of them.
2 stars.
Oh, yeah, Dante DiVincenzo, the co-star. The Roommates podcast.
No, I'm saying just 2 stars. Going back to my team building point.
Oh, yeah.
Of grabbing stars that work together.
Yes.
And
I don't even think they necessarily work together perfectly, but they have found a way to kind of share the dynamic, and Jason Kidd has been a big part of making that mesh. So that's good to see. So that's the West. I mean, I guess we can wrap up the West and then finish off with the East pretty quickly, but overall, to just put a bow on that, where are you at with the Western Conference outlook as we sit here today?
Like I said, the head says to go with the Nuggets, right? You just assume that the veteran team with the established star is going to do it. But I got to bet on Ant-Man, man. You never know.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Going on. Listen.
That'd be bad for my
I'm
agendas.
telling you, he's my guy now, right? So he's my guy. You heard it here. I'm Lakers / Knicks / Timberwolves fan. You're not a Knicks fan.
I'll never live it down if Anthony Edwards does what Brian just suggested. So, but if he does, it would be cool to see because I do like Ant, even despite
your
propaganda.
Vitriol towards him every time he's mentioned.
If he's mentioned the same sentence as Jalen Brunson, absolutely.
So we obviously talked about you think we talked about the Knicks and Sixers enough? Then
who do you think wins the series? That's the last Knicks.
I mean, I have to say Philly, right? Just because of
the podcast beef.
Just because of the podcast beef, yeah. But I don't know.
It really is a coin flip. I don't even know how to feel about it.
Just because they won 2 games already where Jalen was off, normally your best player doesn't get to have 2 off games and still win the series. But they did win it. They did win them. So does that make sense? That's why I'm very much think the Knicks are alive and kicking, and they're up 2-1, so they're more than alive. But if you had to pick, I don't know. I feel like Maxey, matches up, gets you as very close to Jalen's level of production, not usage rate, not ability, but just straight up points.
I'm big on Maxey. What Maxey's done has been in these three games has been
then you have the
impressive.
7-2 Cameroonian who gets to illegally foul people. So I would have to say Philly, but the Knicks are however many 48 minutes away from
that's true
from being up 3-1. So there's that.
Yeah, game 4 is gonna be big.
Boston is very interesting as they perpetually seem to underachieve, and at some point they're going to get blown up because something has to change because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. I have not seen a minute of Cavs Orlando, and I blame the NBA for their scheduling. And what was the other matchup? Milwaukee, which we just saw. Chris Middleton's miracle attempts fall short. So that's an interesting series. And no Giannis. This is where Halliburton has to find a way to make your mark. You have to find a way to bring your team through the series. And we'll see. Then we'll see.
So, yeah, that's kind of where the East is at right now. I mean, with the Knicks, I don't know where it's going to go. And my heart's going to be beating out of my chest for the next 2 weeks straight until we find out. The matchup between Milwaukee and Indiana was really interesting to watch. Obviously, it's like kind of watered down.
Dame Lillard hater.
Who, you?
That's you. Well, go on.
He didn't have a good year.
You're right. Off the court stuff. That's what we're blaming it on.
It came onto the court. So yeah, based on this,
Stupid
I like Dame,
Glorilla.
but not yeah, that shit is crazy. But yeah, I mean that series is interesting, but like obviously, it's possible that Giannis plays in Game 4 and they just like beat the Bucks and they steamroll them. It's possible, but I mean that would go against everything that we've seen in this whole season with the Bucks and the Bucks-Pacers matches specifically. So from that standpoint, I think it can go anyway from here. I mean, they're up 2-1. They've taken away home court advantage. Winning that, if Game 4 is going to be really interesting for that series as well, because Indiana has home court and can really put a dagger in them. I wouldn't even put, if Giannis is healthy, I wouldn't put past Milwaukee to come back from 3-1 if that were to get to that point, but we can cross that bridge when we get there.
It's a big if.
Cleveland, Orlando. I think it's really funny that Cleveland basically didn't play their starters in the final game of the regular season to tank down to the 4th seed to get Orlando, and they end up losing by 40 to Orlando in Orlando. I think there's some irony there. Obviously, they're up 2-1. They have the playoff experience a little bit compared to this first run from Orlando. In that brief series after they got absolutely manhandled by the New York Knicks last year. And I don't think that Cleveland's ceiling goes beyond this round, or Orlando's ceiling goes beyond this round, honestly. I mean, it's cool to see Paolo trying to figure out the playoffs and like having a little coming out party and like kind of putting it together. That's cool to see. Jalen Suggs had a big game too, as well. So that's gonna be something to monitor, especially like you know what they say, the series doesn't start until the home team loses.
That's what they say.
So
one of the worst quotes.
So a lot of series didn't start yet.
Ever.
There's only like 2 series.
The playoffs
started
haven't
yet.
started at all yet.
Yeah, there's nothing started here. And then the final one, Miami and Boston. And that's my thing with like Boston as it relates to like the Knicks and the Sixers. Like, I think whoever wins the Knicks-Sixers matchup is the biggest threat to Boston in the conference. And Boston does have a track record of, like, even this year when they were good throughout the year and, like, dominant and had one of the best net ratings in NBA history, like, in close games, they still found a way to struggle. And, like, they still found a way to complicate situations where they were the better team and not close out big games. Like, we even seen that game when the Pistons were on the brink of breaking their record of losing streaks, and they ended up losing that game. But to show those symptoms against the Pistons is somewhat foreshadowing and telling.
I think they need more threes.
I think
they need to shoot more threes. That's what I think.
My thing is like, I think Joe Mazzulla is a good coach, but I think she also is like tries to be like too smart, and like he just tries stuff that doesn't necessarily like make sense. Like when they played the Knicks in their last matchup in the regular season, they decided to put Drew Holiday on Hartenstein so they could like complicate the pick and roll matchups for Brunson. And Brunson Brunson had 40, and Hartenstein grabbed so many offensive rebounds, and they were down 30 and ended up pulling their starters and pretended like they weren't trying shit, and they were. And they were like, yeah, they played a desperate team tonight. It's like, bro, you got clapped and were trying shit. You should just not play them at all then. That's neither here nor there. I don't like Boston either, as you can tell.
I feel like you just have I-95 beef.
No, their sports fans have seen little to no adversity in their lifetime. They're
sporting lifetime, right?
Yeah, because their fathers have waited that whole drought for the curse of the Bambino and everything. They finally won in 07 or was it 04? So all the kids like our age have seen no adversity in their sports life. They've had Brady, they've had the Celtics, they've had the Bruins. Not much adversity. I think they need some. And I'm really tired of seeing a bunch of Patagonian wearing Dockers donning individuals on the sidelines at the TD Garden, the fake garden, the lesser garden. Back to the point about the actual basketball. Yeah, no, it's just gonna be interesting to see where they go from here. Obviously, we know Spo can coach his ass off, but didn't expect them to be able to take a game from Boston like that, especially on the road. So the series can really swing in Game 3. They can really put pressure on Boston and see what Boston's made of. Like, we expected kind of Boston to, like, everyone had them written in almost in Sharpie as their favorite to win the East. And getting this adversity in the first round will be really telling to see what this team is made of, how they've grown from previous experiences, and, like, where they go from here. Where are you at in totality with the Eastern Conference on where things end up? It's still Boston, everybody else for you, and then if so, who is that? Who's that number two?
Pretty big Jason Tatum hater, partially because I had a bad dream with him. Yeah, I had a Jason Tatum nightmare. It really kicked it into
Get away!
I didn't like him already because Celtics. It was already there. But that really kicked it. Like, has he done anything though? Like,
cold sweats.
Start questioning
Jason Tatum holding deuce.
Just has he really? But I don't know. Everyone says they're a great team. They obviously have the statistics back up that they're a great team. I wonder how they play in the clutch. I wonder everybody wonders what happens when they miss as many threes as they're going to take. And why do they not have the game plan of throw it to the 7'4" guy when we're not making a three? Just for maybe 3 minutes to see maybe, we can score until we get the threes back. But, smarter basketball people than me are in there, and they say keep shooting them. So we'll see. Mathematically, it's supposed to work out. So I don't know. I also think that Joel Embiid, if he wasn't so hurt, that would be such a fun matchup. That would be really fun playoffs. Obviously, if the Knicks weren't hurt either, that would also be a great matchup to see a dogged defensive team where Tibbs is not giving you free threes. That would be a fun matchup as well. So it seems like everything has fallen in place for them, and we'll see what they do. And they should get there, and we'll see if they do. But yeah.
To play devil's advocate for the Celtics, which feels disgusting. They are playing against one of the teams that is the hardest to scheme against.
Well, without a superstar?
Yeah, but from a defensive standpoint and like a buy-in standpoint and a heart and hustle standpoint, like they're up there with anybody not named the New York Knicks. But no, it's gonna be interesting to see what.
Again, those were a lot of words that don't describe winning, that don't necessarily describe teams that win at the highest level to me. So
the Heat didn't.
With a superstar, they did. Without it,
as a superstar.
Playoff superstar, not a real. It's a bit fugazi.
Oh, okay. So
it's a bit fugazi.
So
everybody knows Jimmy Butler's a special case, and that's true too. But
I don't know.
As we wrap up this,
a special case like Bell's palsy.
What? Yeah, we need to wrap. Wow. Anyway, I'm a bit shocked by what just occurred on this. But as we wrap,
for context, Luka Doncic and Russell Westbrook are running the fade at half court in Dallas.
As we wrap, let's as we end, let's deal with the new beginnings of the NFL draft. Damn it. Just give me in 1 minute. What are your stances on the Jets?
Obviously, I would have been happy if they could have traded up or stood in their place and got Rome Odunze, wide receiver, Washington. He ended up going to Chicago Bears.
Why? Don't they need protection for the 42-year-old man on one Achilles that
They
that we know wasn't surgically repaired? Because modern medicine, I would never,
stem cells
I would
probably.
never believe in modern medicine.
Stem cells and
Why would I?
no vaccines absolutely near them.
Why would I believe in modern medicine like Achilles surgeries and big pharma? I would never do that. I would do it the olden way. Just
I
throw
agree with
some
him on
dirt
one of
it.
those things. I won't tell you which one it is right now, but
Throw some dirt on it.
but that's for my dark room conspiracy theories.
Okay.
I mean, protection, yeah, is important. Obviously, I don't like people said that last year they should have took a left tackle. I don't think a rookie left tackle is saving Aaron Rodgers from tearing his Achilles 4 games into the season. 4 games, I wish. 4 plays into the season. But they have 5 functional starters right now at least, and like some decent, like 1 or 2 guys that I trust who are not starters to be putting in a pinch. That said, like I think it would have been cool to have a Brock Bowers or like another weapon to put outside. Like you signed Mike Williams, but he's only on a 1-year deal. I think Alan Lazard looks a lot better with Aaron Rodgers than he does with Zach Wilson. I hope, because he's getting paid to be pretty good, and he was terrible last year. So another guy to complement Garrett would also help elevate Garrett a lot. He's getting bracketed oftentimes and had to deal with whatever the Hackett Zach Wilson phenomenon was, which was just ugly to watch. So I mean, I get the pick. Joe Douglas has a mindset of a lineman. He has the mindset of building in the trenches. That's kind of always been his thing. So you sign Tyron Smith to a 1-year deal, getting his replacement for hopefully the next decade. At the 11th pick, like I get the vision. Especially, he doesn't have to get forced into the starting lineup right away. And if someone goes down, you have a first-round caliber talent to put at either tackle spot or maybe even guard. As Aaron Rodgers hinted at after the draft. They also drafted a receiver out of Western Kentucky in the 3rd round as we were recording this podcast. I can't honestly give you my opinion on him. I'd be lying. But, I mean, I've heard it was a decent wide receiver class, so I got to look and see what his kind of build is and how he complements Garrett and the others. So I'm intrigued by that. I like that general concept of drafting a receiver. As you could tell, I wanted a playmaker in the 1st round. But all in all, like, not surprised. It's a very Jets move. They traded back from 10 to 11. They picked up a few draft picks and later in the draft, which Joe Douglas has been good with in the past. So I'm happy with it. How excited are you for Daniel Jones to hit Malik Neighbors right in the numbers with a football?
I'm not gonna lie. I think I was a bit hurt by Saquon and that whole situation.
He still hasn't,
and I think
hasn't recovered.
I think I'm just rallying against the anybody in the world can play running back situation that the GMs have seemingly convinced everyone of. And so for me, the Giants, everyone agreed that their biggest issue was, offensive line play, at least on offense, and then quarterback play too. But obviously those two go hand in hand. But the uproar of them, we absolutely cannot sign Saquon Barkley because we need to upgrade the O-line first. And then we got a guard who was slightly above league average at pass blocking and slightly below league average at run blocking. And that's why we let go of Saquon Barkley. And now we have a fine running back, and we'll win 7 games. And I hope everybody's saying Neighbors is great. And looking at his stuff, he does seem to have an elite and explosive second gear. They changed D coordinators. They have little to no. They have Dexter Lawrence, who is a 300-pound man who I hope he's running the hills right now because he'll be playing every single snap. Because if not, there will be a gaping hole in the middle of the Giants' defense. And they only have 1 cornerback, and I don't know why that nobody seems to be concerned by the
Deontay Banks,
that they
go
have.
Terps.
They have
go
that
Terps.
they have. He's gonna make a big jump going from guarding wide receivers 2s to now going to wide receiver 1, and then behind him is a blank void of nothingness.
They just drafted a safety as you're recording.
Yeah,
I mean, best safety in the draft, I might add.
I also, I was a big Wink fan as well, so
yeah,
to go from probably one of the most fun or interesting to just look at and observe and think about like defenses to we're going to play cover 2 and try to disguise coverages. Whoopee with subpar talent.
Yeah.
Yay. It's hard for me to be like overjoyed, but hopefully Neighbors does Neighbors things and is the Jamar Chase that everyone says he is, and hopefully Daniel get him the ball. I mean, it is. If you look at Daniel Jones' career, it is a bit sad, just the player that he was forced to become, having Joe Judge thread into him when his best thing was probably his deep ball, and Joe Judge then beat it into his head. Don't you ever throw an interception. Don't you ever throw an interception. So now he doesn't throw interceptions. He also doesn't do anything else, but he doesn't throw interceptions anymore. And he doesn't fumble, so I guess that was what everybody wanted.
As many people know, I'm a big Daniel Jones truther. I think I like Neighbors just because the standpoint of like I think they had a lot of good pieces in that receiving room, and I think like him having that 1A kind of receiver kind of elevates everyone else around him. Like it makes the offense look a lot more dynamic when you have if you can get protection, which is a whole different.
Yeah, Evan Neal.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be great.
But I think
have a lot of protection
from the hot dog vendors booing him villainously after he'd taken shots.
Neighbors
at them
better
last
work on. Our Neighbors is working strictly on the scramble drill because that's all we're gonna. You're gonna roll left because Andrew Thomas will be alone.
Just find open spot and make eye contact with
Andrew Thomas will be
Daniel
blocking his
Jones
man for 7 seconds, and you're gonna run across the field to the left side where Daniel will be running to, and you better be open because that's all we got. Daniel Jones Truther, sorry.
No, I think I like it just because like it's best player available. Like 14 straight offensive players start the NFL draft this year, which was like some kind of record, but that kind of tells you that they kind of just went best player available that wasn't a quarterback. And I get it because like you also just took Evan Neal. This regime took Evan Neal like 2 years ago, so they can't really double down there. So I like Neighbors. I think it makes it interesting on the outside when you have like Neighbors who can do everything. Hyde who could take the roof off the defense. Then you have Wandale operating in the short intermediate range, and then you have Darius Slayton trying to hold Joe Sheen hostage for every dime that he thinks he's worth, which is fine. You should because you're playing. Your brain will be scrambled after you stop playing. So get every dollar you can. We're with the players here at Smoothie.
And everybody's brain is scrambled after that 2-hour experience of Smoothie and the Bib, and that's where we'll end it. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. I'm gone.
Absolutely no clarity on our stances on anything, really. Just a back and forth exchange that hopefully I want to set the record now. If the Knicks lose to the 76ers and Jalen Brunson has any performances similar to like he did in game 1 and 2, you'll never hear another episode of the podcast again. I just want you to establish that clearly. I hope Joel Embiid cures his Bell's palsy but doesn't play game 4. I still hate him. We'll see what happens with the rest of the series. But we were going to talk Yankees, but they're losing to the Milwaukee Brewers right now, and they don't deserve to be talked about after they just lost 2 games to the Oakland A's. So maybe we'll talk about them in mid-July when we all pretend that they're good, and then they lose to the Houston Astros somehow in the first round of the playoffs. That's neither here nor there. Thank you so much for listening. I have no idea what platforms or how we will be uploading this, but whatever platform this is on, make sure to subscribe to it, drop a follow, drop a like, drop a comment. Let us know if there's anything you want to hear. Let us know why you hate Joel Embiid. Let us know why you think Jalen Brunson is so great, why you think Aaron Rodgers will lead the Jets to a Super Bowl this year, why LeBron James is not washed, or anything else you want to talk about. We can even talk about J. Cole being what are the streets calling him now?
The KD of the rap game. He just wants to hoop.
And we just want to pod. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next time.